When will Dr. Owens be here?
A few minutes.
Okay.
We're on live now. I'm trying to.
Civil rights movement in the trenches of the battleground state of Ohio, city of Cincinnati, and the brother of civil rights activist Dr. Stephen Reece Sr. and the late Barbara Reece, who marched for me 50 years ago.
A champion for voting rights.
We're gonna bring in people that know about business. We're gonna bring in people that know about what's going on in the tech. Put some soul into this whole tech thing that's going on.
She's a fighter for the people.
Welcome, Reverend Al Sharpton, to the show.
Congratulations on your show.
She's authentic.
We're bringing Joe Madison, known as the Black Eagle.
Congratulations on having the show. Nothing is more important than the local programs that engage our communities.
She's a proud HBCU grad. It's time for Alicia Reece's Soul Food. Food for the soul. Cincinnati's 24-hour urban gospel connection. Inspiration 1050 AM and 103.1 FM WGRI.
And we are, let me get my headsets on. We are on live from the studios, Alicia Reece Soul Food, Food for the Soul. And we just got so many things to talk about. My goodness. I mean, every time you turn on, the TV tube, whether you turn on the news, whether it's local news, national news, Twitter, Facebook, we just getting hit, boy. I tell you, I can't even turn on the Hallmark channel anymore. I mean, I'm telling you. Now, I'm someone who, I would turn on Hallmark because when I want to escape, so now you get my little secret. Whenever I want to escape, all of the, the CNN, the MSNBC, the Fox News, the, what's happening in Washington. And believe me, I look at a lot of that. On Twitter, who's saying what, how many more people are getting ready to run for president of the United States. I even had some people call me and say, hey, maybe you need to think about running for president of the United States of America, because we have so many people that are jumping into this race. So, and then, now we've got the getting into the school scandal, getting into the colleges, that big scandal that just happened, where we got, rich people being able to, get there. I couldn't understand the Photoshop. That was the part that got me. I mean, it wasn't enough to give money. They had to Photoshop faces and pretend that they were athletes in order to get in to some of these prestigious colleges and universities. And, I usually watch Hallmark when I want to get away from all the, the terrible stuff. So I just like binge watch Hallmark because you can't go wrong with Hallmark. I mean, it has a great ending. Somebody's going to fall in love at the end, and you're going to have tissue and you're going to clap your hand. And I just binge watch it when I want to erase and get away from the craziness of the world. But now I got to watch Hallmark in a different way now. I mean, they brought madness to Hallmark Channel. Oh my gosh. Well, anyway, we got a great show today. A great partnership with Interact for Health. I'm excited about the partnership because I've been telling you guys I want to bring, a soul food, the health soul food moment. And we had Dr. Odell Owens in when we talked about his life. And I got so many people that were hitting me up afterwards saying, I've been knowing Dr. Odell Owens for so many years, but I didn't know this. I didn't know that. A lot of people didn't know he played basketball. They didn't know he was like that great with the basketball. A lot of people didn't know he had went over to Africa. I mean, it was just just so many people hitting me with stuff they didn't know. So we're excited to have this partnership with Dr. Odell Owens, with the Dr. Odell Owens moment with Soul Food Health. We're going to be each month bringing you different topics. And today is a big topic because I was at the National Action Network meeting, and I'm getting ready for the national convention, by the way, you guys, April 3rd through the 6th, New York. Come on with us. You know, everybody who's running for president of the United States is going to be there. We've got a great group of folks going to be there. We're honoring Mary J. Blige. So you want to meet us in New York. But we have a local chapter in my city, Cincinnati, Greater Cincinnati. Bishop Bobby Hilton is our president. And we had our meeting. And at the meeting, we talked about the opioid crisis in the Black community. And everyone has, been asking, like, well, is this something that African Americans should be concerned about? Because they've kind of put a face on opioid, and there's not a person of color. So a lot of people say, hey, it's not my community, I don't have to deal with it, And so even Carl, our general manager here, when I told him Dr. Odell Owens is coming on and talk about opioid crisis, he said, now, wait a minute, I just want to whisper now, is that affected us? And I said, yes, we're going to find out about it today. So I'm excited. And when we come back on the break, we're going to talk to Dr. Odell Owens in the studio for the inaugural edition of the Dr. Odell Owens moment. So we're going to go to a quick break. When we come back, we're going to find out, opioid, is it an equal opportunity killer? Or is it just killing some folks? We're going to get the real deal from Dr. Odell Owens. We're going to break down this opioid crisis, because this has to be not just a moment, but this has to be a movement, because it's killing our people, human beings. I want to start with that first. It's killing human beings, and it's crossing all kind of zip codes. And we're going to get the real deal from Dr. Odell Owens. And we come right back with Alicia Reece, Soul Food.
Eastern Personnel Services Incorporated, located at 619 Central Avenue, is looking for you. Their clients are looking for awesome workers with great work ethic.
Sorry about earlier. I was texting
outstanding skills.
Pulling over and
Are you
coming
a
from a
professional
meeting. So
in healthcare, clerical or administrative skills, hospitality, customer care, industrial,
Julie,
general labor? Are you in construction or a driver? If so, call their job line at 513-230-5034. That's 513-230-5034. Eastern Personnel Services Incorporated is an equal opportunity employer.
Our community continues to struggle with the impacts of opioid use. Individuals who are exposed to these drugs, whether through illicit use or by prescription, are at risk for an overdose. Fortunately, there's a safe, effective tool to reverse opioid overdoses and save lives: naloxone, also called Narcan. The Surgeon General recently recommended that if you are likely to encounter someone who uses opioids, you should carry naloxone. It's safe, effective, and easy to use, and kits are available at low or no cost. Naloxone can keep someone alive until emergency medical help arrives. To get a naloxone kit, contact your local health department.
And we are back, and in the studio, we have Dr. Odell Owens. And Dr. Odell Owens is the CEO of Interact for Health. And Dr. Owens, we want to start off, first of all, because a lot of people may or may not know, what Interact for Health is and what you do. And so we want to just start off there so people kind of understand.
Well, Interact for Health is the old name was the Cincinnati Health Foundation. We had three major areas of focus in which we supply money for grants. And the first one is school-based health center. We just started about 20 years ago putting school-based health centers. The purpose was really to try to keep kids healthy, keep them in school. 10% of Cincinnati children have asthma, high school kids and CPS have asthma, and majority of those are African Americans. And many of them are not well controlled, meaning that they have spells, they have to go to the emergency room a lot and put themselves at risk. As you remember, I think it was Key Woods' son died of an asthmatic attack.
Yes.
So that's sad.
Yeah.
That's sad. But so by doing that, we've shown that we have been able to increase the health, and hopefully we're going to try to do some new data to see if we've helped to increase the graduation rate. Our second pillar is tobacco smoking. Now, again, when we say that, most people say tobacco, we don't see people smoke much anymore. That's way down. It's true, the national smoking rate is about 15 per 100,000. However, in the poor community and in the African American community, our smoking rates are still 23 to 30%. And as you know, smoking probably impacts 41% of all chronic illnesses. It makes diabetes worse. It can cause cancer. It's going to make your hypertension worse. So we want to focus trying to get to African Americans that are smoking. Now, the interesting thing is that African Americans actually smoke less than Caucasians. Our smoking pattern is different. And historically, the insurance company says, well, we'll cover the cost of smoking cessation if you're smoking a certain number of cigarettes a day. African Americans tend to smoke below that number, so they never had a chance to even have the medication to stop smoking. Our third pillar, as you know, is the heroin epidemic, because it's still really impacting our community. So we're, again, Interact's involved in 20 counties. We just don't do Hamilton County. We're involved in 20 counties, 7 in Kentucky, and I think 3 in Indiana.
Now, I know we're going to talk about opioids, but I do want to make a point on the smoking, because I got a big shout out, a very good friend of mine, her husband, because I thought the same thing. And he actually, I'd gotten taken to the hospital for some heart, issues. And they said, you got to stop the smoking, those cigarettes. And he was telling me, this has been very difficult. I know he listens to our show. He's in Dallas, Texas. That's a tough thing. And I thought the same thing. I said, wait a minute. I mean, we're still smoking cigarettes, and I kind of got an eye opener. So I'm glad that's a pillar.
But let me tell you why that's tough. It's very interesting that when the FDA began to really come down hard on the cigarette company, they said, look, you can't put in flavoring. But they fought, the insurance industry fought to say, no, let us keep menthol. Let us keep menthol cigarettes. Because they market menthols to 2 major groups, the African American and the gay population. Menthols is a cigarette that's easy to start. It is the most difficult cigarette to quit. And there's some data to show that African Americans, we may absorb nicotine and menthol at a much more efficient rate than whites. So for a little bit, we absorb a lot in our body. So we're more prone to be addicted to it. But it's the hardest cigarette to quit.
Wow.
So,
wow.
And the tobacco companies really market, because we think about that. When I was a kid, what was the number one cigarette? It was cool. You smoke cool. And in our culture, at that time, was really run by your coolness. If you remember, as a young kid, watching people who smoke, it was an event to light a cigarette. They had to pop the pack, kind of move around. You remember that? And you were cool. Now you get that one cigarette to come out. And then you reach in your pocket for your lighter or your match, and you're rolling, and you may light it. But it was a cool event. And they marketed on that. They really exploited that in the African American community.
Wow. Now let's talk about opioids. And I want to start from what I always hear. The opioid, what is the opioid crisis? Let's start there. People say, we got an opioid. What is it? A lot of people don't know. What is opioid?
Okay, let's start with a little bit of the history.
Okay.
There was a point in time in which patients were suing physicians and writing letters to the medical board stating that their physician had undermedicated them, that they were having pain and suffering, suing on pain and suffering, saying I had surgery, I was in a car accident, and my doctor just wasn't giving me strong enough pain medication, that I suffered. So medical boards came down on doctors. Doctors began to write for a lot more medication. And then the pharmaceutical companies came along and said, hey, we got this new line of medication, OxyContin, that is powerful enough to take away the pain, but it's not addicting. Because physicians was always afraid about making their patients addicted to medication. So they took it. Well, it turns out it was addictive. But let me tell you something that I resent when people say to me, it didn't impact the Black community. Well, initially it didn't, because when this new medication came out, when African Americans went to emergency room, went to doctors, they said, well, we ain't giving this to Black people because, they drug seeking. We're not going to give this to them. So people say to me, wasn't that a positive side of racism? There's never a positive side of racism. Because let me tell you that when you talk about your vital signs, you're supposed to ask now for every patient. It should be documented on the chart, your pain and your pain tolerance. There were young African-American kids who would break their leg, break their arm, who were never given pain medication. Adults weren't given pain medication. So yes, we weren't given it. So certainly we weren't addicted to it. And so then what happened when people saw all the addiction, then the government stepped in and said, okay, let's begin by one, connecting all the pharmacies. So if I give you a script, another doctor gives you a prescription for opioids, and you go to a pharmacy, it will now talk to each other, and they'll say, no, you got one yesterday, you're not getting this, they can destroy it. So that sort of showed down the pill mills and the marketing. And so what happened when they started cutting back where people couldn't get those medication, heroin reappeared on the market, pure. You know, in the old days when we grew up and you heard about heroin, it was dirty. That means it was milk mixed with baby powder, talcum powder, rat poison. It was pure and $5. So it came on the market pure and cheap, and those people that were addicted were able to switch over to the heroin. But then fentanyl came around. Fentanyl used to be made, and it wasn't a very powerful, it's a powerful medication when it's made appropriately. But when it's clandestinely made, it wasn't as powerful. But now the fentanyl is coming from Mexico, made at the level what we call pharmaceutical grade. And people then start mixing in the fentanyl with the heroin. Well, people were buying the heroin, didn't know fentanyl was in there. And this is when we start seeing these huge overdose and deaths. And then people put carfentanil, which you use on elephants. So I don't understand why, if you're a business person, you would want to kill off your customers.
Wow.
But so initially, Blacks weren't part of that. But they have been. But the media and the scientific community has not recognized this has been a crisis in the Black community since 2015.
Wow.
There have been overdose deaths. In fact, Chicago, just a year and a half ago, had like 35 deaths one weekend. But no one wants to talk about it. And part of that is that I want your listeners to understand, let's separate this out. When it was crack, these were addicts. We said they were addicted. Now the system says, oh, this is heroin. This is a disease.
Right. Now that is the big thing, because the language and marketing, because a lot of times, like you said, crack, throw them in jail. Opioid crisis, disease, we need to
put them into treatment.
Right. So do you think one of the things, or is one of our challenges, trying to now just get the language?
Well, so that it's getting the language and the acceptance that crack is a disease is part of the whole process of addiction. But here's one of the unintended consequences. Because of this epidemic with the heroin and the fentanyl, there are not going to be any beds for the crack people and the alcohol people. They're going to be pushed aside.
Wow.
And again, that's going to be what? Majority going to be minority people. And the whole thing, the culture approaches things differently, unfortunately. It's part of the health disparity and part of racism. When it was an addiction, when it was crack, you had to go to a methadone clinic to get help. The medications for the people that are addicted to heroin, you can go to a doctor's office where you can do it privately. So it's a big difference in how we're treating people. We can't do that mess. We got to treat people equally.
We're talking to Dr. Odell Owens from Interact for Health, and we're talking the opioid crisis. When we come right back, we're going to tell you about, we hear a lot about Narcan. What is this? And it's saving people. I mean, a lot of people have seen this. We've seen parents, we've seen young people being saved by this. We're going to find out what is that when we come back on Alicia Reece Soul Food.
How's your dad?
He's good. Let's make sure we get this together here. Hold on.
Eastern Personnel Services Incorporated, located at 619 Central Avenue, is looking for you. Their clients are looking for awesome workers with great work ethic, good work history, and outstanding skills. Are you a professional in healthcare, have clerical or administrative skills, hospitality, customer care, industrial, general labor? Are you in construction or a driver? If so, call their job line at 513-230-5034. That's 513-230-5034.
This segment
Eastern Personnel Services Incorporated is an equal opportunity employer.
The words that describe my mother,
and this is my uniform. I wear this every show.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, this is mine. They gave me this because I was a queen. So they
remember you were homecoming.
Yeah. So
I remember you were homecoming queen, and what you did, they wouldn't give you an outfit or a car.
I was Miss Grambling State, and
they wouldn't give you the benefits.
we got it together.
She's the queen. She had the benefits.
Probably the closest thing I can think of.
No, I remember that.
Yeah. So I wear every Grambling. That's how I started.
Produced and directed by Alicia Reece. Available on YouTube.
Our community continues to struggle with the impacts of
They got to be
opioid
proud of
use.
you as a graduate.
Individuals who are exposed to these drugs, whether through illicit use or by prescription, are at risk
Love
for an
it.
overdose.
Best decision I
Fortunately,
What
there's a
sorority
safe,
were you in?
effective tool to reverse opioid
Didn't
overdose
plan.
and save lives.
They
Naloxone,
were
also
gone
called
by the
Narcan.
time I
To get a naloxone
could.
kit, contact your
I had
local
to
health department.
graduate. And we're back on Alicia Reece Soul Food, Food for the Soul. And we are on with Dr. Odell Owens, and he is dropping so much knowledge about opioids because we just kind of, we read in the paper, we'll see a flash here, see a flash there. But this is definitely a crisis, and it is affecting everyone. And he even talked about how it affects other addictions. It could affect other addictions because, money and beds and all that will be running out. And we still have a lot of people dealing with alcohol addiction, other drug addiction. So we got to deal with the disease in a holistic approach. Now there's Narcan. And I remember my days at the State House, and we approved in the state to be able to utilize it. And, you have firefighters and police officers being trained in it. Tell us about what is Narcan? I mean, people just know that it's happening, but people don't really know what it is and why it's been saving people's lives.
Well, Narcan is a drug that's been around for a long time that can reverse the effects of drugs, especially the opioids. Where the opioids attack the brain, the Narcan comes in and replaces those positions on the brain so that the drug can't act upon the brain. It can reverse it. When this whole thing started, as you said, in the state of Ohio was right on top of it by providing money to buy Narcan for those first responders. They could go out to a person that overdosed, and it was a spray. Initially, it was a spray, a single dose. You could spray it into the nose, and for the most part, that brought people around. Well, over a time period, as people began to add the fentanyl and the carfentanyl, one dose did not work. So actually, the manufacturer began to make a double dose box and began to make it more of an injection than a nasal spray. The nasal spray was helpful because when you give the nasal spray, and as that person comes out of it, the first responders could titrate it in the sense that they could bring you almost all the way back and take you to the emergency room. Now, I say that because when they gave it the whole thing and brought people back, the first thing that those patients would do is to fight them. Because now you're taking away the high. They immediately do not have that high. And they were very combative. They'd be very careful. So they wanted to bring it not all the way back. And also, the second reason was take them to the emergency room, because you bring them all the way back. They say, I ain't going to the emergency room. And they hop up and run off. We've had cases in Cincinnati where a person has been brought back from near death 3 times in the same day. 3 times in the same day, different locations with Narcan.
Wow.
So Surgeon General says what? Surgeon General says, because a lot of people said, you remember the sheriff from Butler County didn't want his people to carry Narcan. He said, no, if they're going to do that, let them die. But the Surgeon General said, look, if you are around people who are using this, you need to have this. But however, Alicia, the saddest day for me is when my team reported back that they had trained a 9-year-old girl, because both her parents were addicted. And they trained a 9-year-old girl how to give it because they knew that sooner or later she was going to encounter her parents being overdosed.
Wow. And so where are we at now? How can more, churches are, I hear churches are meeting and they're having outreach events at churches about the opioid crisis. They're trying to get more education, particularly in the Black community, around this issue. Where are we now? Where do we need to be from a holistic standpoint?
Well, unfortunately, as we talk about the heroin, the opioids, that's almost yesterday's story.
Oh, wow.
Because methamphetamine is back, and it's back strong. So what happened again, people were afraid. If people come and say, I got some heroin. So people were afraid because they don't know if it was heroin, because sometimes they're being sold fentanyl and being told it was heroin. And again, it got the overdose. So people begin to, what we're seeing, especially starts in the rural areas, moving away from this into the fentanyl. To the methamphetamine. So we're going to see a different kind. And remember, methamphetamine was that drug that people can overdose. It was a drug that, you hear stories of the police having to, 5 of them grab one person with the extraordinary strength. That's the methamphetamines that cause those kind of reactions. So, when I was a coroner for 7 years, and being part of the coroner's office was a little unique in Hamilton County because I was also director of our forensic laboratory, responsible for everything from fingerprinting to ballistics to drug testing. I never saw a case of methamphetamine being found in the city of Cincinnati. It's more of the rural areas and the suburban areas. But now they're coming into the inner city. Before, all the cocaine people kept them out because methamphetamine started out as a white biker's drug. Hell's Angels started passing amphetamine. So you couldn't get into a black community. In the old days, Liberty and Vine divided over around the 4 quadrants, and there were 4 different groups controlling the drugs there, but never meth. Now meth is.
Wow. And so what would be your message? We've got the Narcan, and I guess I want to ask one other question, though. Someone asked me about marijuana. They're lacing it in the marijuana. Is that?
People, when people talked about you legalize marijuana, I told people that means that the illegal marijuana business will never go away, because they're always going to be a boutique and always going to come to you and say, I got something better than what you can get on Vine Street at the store. They're always going to add it. Now, again, there was a man that died down on Mitchell Avenue in one of those rages with the police, and in his body, he had marijuana. He had other drugs, but one drug he had was marijuana that had been laced with embalming fluid. Now, why would you want to put something in your body that's only meant for dead people?
Oh
so
God.
Yes, you're going to get all kinds of mixture. But one of the main things is really in terms of prevention is to expose people, especially young kids, to positive things. You got to get to that brain early. It's really about how the brain develops and with the brain responses being satisfactory, what feels good. I'll give you an example. In Iceland, about 20 years ago, they had a real problem with teenage drinking. Extremely high rate of teenagers drinking. So the Iceland government gave every parent a grant of $250 per child to put them into some type of activity. And so all these kids now got into sports and many other kind of activities, and guess what? That number just really dropped. But we've always known that kids engaged in sports and after-school activities tended to not get pregnant, have less of the drug associations. So we just got to really modify that early and get these kids to have that part of the brain get stimulated by feeling good by doing activities.
So if anyone that's listening right now who feels like opioid is not, it's a rural problem, it's only a white problem, it's only a rich problem, it has nothing to do with the Black community, what's your message to them?
They're wrong. It's just been hidden. There are many papers written saying, hey, these things have been occurring in the Black community, but the forces to be haven't talked about it in the same direction as they have. That's been, as I said, heavy in the community for the last 3 to 4 years.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Odell Owens, Interact for Health. Now, we're going to have some different, every month we'll have a different topic and we'll be dealing with this. I can't wait till we deal with also the smoking piece, because I know he's tuning in now. So, we'll have something for him on how do you deal with this. And I think you brought up some big issues that it's not as easy as people think. They say, oh, just get a patch. Oh, just, just go to vapors. So we'll be able to talk about vapors versus what you got going on now.
And I appreciate you saying it because in the American community, we have Black mothers who smoke because there's not enough food for them and their kids. And so by smoking, it cuts down their appetite. That's sad.
Wow.
That is sad.
Wow. So we're talking about dropping hot sauce. You dropped some hot sauce today. Thank you, Dr. Odell Owens, for stopping by and kicking off this moment. And it's so perfect timing, because we were just in a meeting this past weekend, we were in a meeting, National Action Network, about the opioid crisis and how it's hitting everybody and how we have to make sure that the African-American community is involved. And then to have you on the show today to drop all the knowledge that you have. We can't wait to have you back next month on this Interact for Health. Dr. Odell Owens, Health with Dr. Odell Owens, Alicia Reece Soul Food Health Moment. We'll be right back after this.
Great.
Okay.
I go so fast with you.
I know. If you didn't have to go, I'll keep you in here, but you got to go. You're busy.
I was just looking real fast at April. It's Good Friday. Is the third Friday? Did you say Thursday?
Yeah, we're gonna
go at lunchtime. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'll make sure we get on. His calendar can get challenging, so I want to make sure I'm on ahead of things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, kid.
Thank you.
As always.
Thank
You're
you.
great.
Thank you.
It was nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Are you missing not being up in State House?
I'm not driving back.
No.
No, but I'm still there. I'm still
Still deciding?
Yeah.
Are we doing?
Our Father is from the bottom up because nobody gave him anything. He's our GOAT, the greatest of all time.
Whenever I need somebody to tell me the truth, he's the person that I go to.
I figured out a long time ago that the greatest profession of all time is ownership.
I don't think your dad's afraid of anybody.
He was always there to support us. Probably the closest thing I can think of being self-made.
From the bottom up, the Dr. Stephen Reece Sr. Story. Produced and directed by Alicia Reece. Available on YouTube.
Okay, we're back with Alicia Reece Soul Food, and we had a couple, we're working it out because we're trying to go live on so many different platforms. So we're live on the radio, WGRI 1050 AM. We're also on 103.1 FM, and then at the same time we're live on in the studio on Facebook Live, and we're live on our new YouTube channel, Reece Talk Media. So we have a lot of things going on, but we're gonna have this down packed by April. That's my goal. By April, we won't be having these glitches. So we're getting it together. So thank you for your patience, especially to my Facebook folks, because I know a lot of them are saying, wait a minute, you didn't come on. So we're on now, Facebook Live. So we should be good. I'm hoping that we're all good. So I'm looking at that. So anyway, we got a lot of things coming up. I'm excited about this partnership with Interact for Health with Dr. Odell Owens. So each month we'll be bringing you some health information, and excited about that because your health is your greatest wealth. And certainly we've got to have knowledge for that. Next week, we're very excited to have on, we want any person, particularly a woman, because it's Women's Month, any woman that's in business, going into business, want to be in business. Next week, we're excited because we're going to be talking about how to, from the beginning, how do you fund your business? Because we got a lot of people in business and we don't have funding. We're looking for funding. We're not sure about funding. And so we'll have our show next week will be dedicated to what are all the funding opportunities that are out there for women businesses. And so we're excited. We're going to have someone on that has experience of that, everything from venture capital versus crowdfunding versus traditional funding versus do you go for profit? Do you go nonprofit? All those things we're going to dedicate our show next week. So get everybody because the women are the number one business in terms of people going into business, women going into business. So we want you to make sure that you tune in next week. So we're excited about that. When we come back, I've got a lot to talk about because a lot has been going on. Everything from cheating to get in school. Yeah, I don't understand this. You're walking around with a whole bunch of money. You're able to pay to go to school. God has blessed you with a bunch of money. Most people say, just let me get some money. You can pay to go to school. But instead, you rather pay someone else, a consultant, to help you cheat to get in school? I'm confused. And then you get all this money where you can have tutors to help your children. People hope they could get a tutor. Tutors that can help your children get in school in order to get in college. And most people are going to college to do what? To get the education to do what? Make money. To get the education to do what? Start a business. To get the education to do what? To get a job. But your child already got money, inheriting money, already can start their own business. But you would rather crop a photo put it on somebody else's body in order for them to get into a school and take a scholarship away from someone else who actually has the grades to get in, but probably don't have the money to get in. So anyway, we got so much to talk about. We're going to take a quick break and we'll talk about a lot of that and more when we come right back with some more hot sauce on Alicia Reece Soul Food.
Eastern Personnel Services Incorporated, located at 619 Central Avenue, is looking for you. Their clients are looking for awesome workers with great work ethic, good work history, and outstanding skills. Are you a professional in healthcare, have clerical or administrative skills, hospitality, customer care, industrial, general labor? Are you in construction or a driver? If so, call their job line at 513-230-5034. That's 513-230-5034. Eastern Personnel Services Incorporated is an equal opportunity employer.
Our community continues to struggle with the impact of opioid use. Individuals who are exposed to these drugs, whether through illicit use or by prescription, are at risk for an overdose. Fortunately, there's a safe, effective tool to reverse opioid overdoses and save lives: naloxone, also called Narcan. The Surgeon General recently recommended that if you are likely to encounter someone who uses opioids, you should carry naloxone. It's safe, effective, and easy to use, and kits are available at low or no cost. Naloxone can keep someone alive until emergency medical help arrives. To get a naloxone kit, contact your local health department.
And we're back with Alicia Reece Soul Food, food for the soul. Let me get my camera straight here. For those who are watching us on Facebook Live. And we've been experiencing some technical difficulties. So if you're listening to us on Facebook Live, can you hit a like? I'm just something's not going over correctly on our Facebook page. So if you are listening to Facebook Live, I would like for you to please hit a like on there. So I don't know what's going on. We've been trying this YouTube Live, but I think we're going to go back if we can make sure we can get the Wi-Fi right. I think we're going to go back to just Facebook Live first because we're having some difficulties here. But anyway, but yeah, so, you have this case and, they call it, what do they call it? Varsity blues. That's cracking me up. Varsity blues. So that means that we've been having varsity blues for a long time because so many people are struggling to pay for college. So many people are in debt. My goodness, they're in debt to go to, just going to college, trying to pay off the college debt. So, of course, this scandal doesn't go over well. But I think what's going to come out of this is that all of a sudden they're going to finally take on the SAT scores. They're going to finally take on SAT scores because the SAT scores and ACT scores has always been, controversial. We also have the young lady, I believe, I'm trying to remember what city she's in, but she took the scores. Her score wasn't that high, got a tutor, came back, got a high score. She's African-American young lady, and they want to accuse her of cheating and don't want to honor the new score. So certainly, those are some issues that a lot of people are talking about. And so one of the things I think we want to definitely do on the show, certainly that the scandal is horrible. People are going to watch the scandal, find out what happens to them. But on this show, we certainly like to take another approach. And so we're going to be doing an upcoming show on resources for people to go to college, resources. So we're going to do a resource show on resources that are available to help you go to college and some of the best things to look for as you are applying to go into college. And what does that mean? So, obviously we have that scandal going on, and we've got several. I think there's a major lawsuit that's happening. There's a major lawsuit that's happening where people are suing those institutions because of that. And so we're excited to have this upcoming show that we're going to talk about how to get in college and what is available for your child to go to college. And then we're going to also look at what is the ROI on college. I mean, obviously, these folks were going to school to get certain prestige. It must have been a prestige at the country club because, one of the students, she's already she's not anymore, but she was a YouTube influencer. So she already had a beauty business. She was on YouTube. She was doing all this. So basically, I guess she was just going there for prestige and have, on a resume, but she didn't need it to make money or to get a job or to start a business because she was already doing those things. So I just predict that one of the big things that's going to come out of this situation is going to kind of move from already, let me just say this is interesting that we learned, mug shots. Let's just talk about that. Mug shots. Now, they have said that you will not see the mug shots of these individuals and these Hollywood stars in this situation. The feds have said, and let me see if I can pull it up because I had it exact words of what they had said about why you will not see the mugshots. Okay, so it said that you will not see the mugshots of Felicity Huffman or Lori Loughlin because, get this, guys. They said that, in quote, the U.S. Marshal Services may only release photographs for law enforcement purposes. Okay. Quote, once a prisoner has been arrested, the general rule is that no release should be made because release of the photographs of that prisoner to the media or public would not serve law enforcement purposes. Okay. So then the question becomes, because, you got these magazines busted and all these other things. The first thing they do when they arrest somebody is put the mug shots up. Okay. Now we understand this is the U.S. Marshals. This is what the feds are saying. But shouldn't this be a rule for everybody now? Because sometimes people get a mug shot and then they say, oh, they were wrongly arrested. And therefore, they're not guilty, but the mugshot stays forever. I remember when I was at the State House, I tried to get a bill passed called auto erase for people who was even arrested for mistaken identity. In other words, they were arrested, they were mugshotted. They said, oh, you know what? That wasn't him or that wasn't her. But then it still is in the records. And so the him and the her has to go and get all kind of lawyers and pay fees in order to get their mugshot erased because they can't get hired anywhere. So all of a sudden now they're saying that the standards now they're saying is once a prisoner has been arrested, the general rule is that no release should be made because release of photographs of the prisoner to the media or the public would not serve law enforcement purposes. So maybe that should be the standard, for everybody, except they said they would keep it if it's like most wanted, America's Most Wanted or something like that. But how many people are not America Most Wanted? And the first thing they do is run and get a mug shot. In fact, there's publications that thrive on having mug shots. And this is before the people are actually, go to court and if they're guilty or not guilty. So my question is, should this be the standard or is it just the standard for a few? Should this be subjective or should this be the law that none of the mug shots are released unless it's America Most Wanted or what they said, unless it has they're looking for somebody or, that person is a major, major danger. I mean, to me, when I look at all of this, get all beyond the varsity blues and all that, the hashtag and everything, that's one of the things that's really stood out to me is that, they said they have a policy on mugshots. And the question is, should this be the policy for everyone or just a select few? Should this be the policy for everyone or a select few? So you could go on my Facebook page, Alicia Reece Soul Food, like our page. I need you to do three things. I need you to like Alicia Reece Soul Food. I need you to share Alicia Reece Soul Food. And I need you to also like our YouTube page, Reece Talk Media. And I want you to go to the page because that's going to be the question of the day. I just want to hear what your thoughts are, what you believe as it relates to mug shots. And I'm not one that just like, oh my God, I love mug shots, because I'm not one that go on looking for, oh, let me find so-and-so's mug shot. That's not me. But my question is, when this article came out, it said these mug shots will not be released because this is our policy. It made me kind of wake up and say, well, wait a minute, what is the real policy? So we want you to go to our page and answer that question. What do you think? Should this be the policy for everybody, or is just a policy that should be for a few? We want to get your response when we come right back on Alicia Reece Soul Food.
Eastern Personnel Services Incorporated, located at 619 Central Avenue, is looking for you. Their clients are looking for awesome workers with great work ethic, good work history, and outstanding skills. Are you a professional in healthcare, have clerical or administrative skills, hospitality, customer care, industrial, general labor? Are you in construction or a driver? If so, call their job line at 513-230-5034. That's 513-230-5034. Eastern Personnel Services Incorporated is an equal opportunity employer.
Our community continues to struggle with the impact of opioid use. Individuals who are exposed to these drugs, whether through illicit use or by prescription, are at risk for an overdose. Fortunately, there's a safe, effective tool to reduce opioid overdose, naloxone. Surgeon General recently recommended that if you are likely to encounter someone who uses opioids, you should carry naloxone. It's safe, effective, and easy to use, and kits are available at low or no cost. Naloxone can keep someone alive until emergency medical help arrives. To get a naloxone kit, contact your local health department.
And we're back with Alicia Reece Soul Food, food for the soul. And, it's so much stuff that's going on. My gosh, I could just go on and on and on, but we don't have time to go on and on and on. But I do want to give you an update on the New Friendship Baptist Church, the Dream Campus development. I just wanted to give you some, because people were asking some updates, hey, what's going on? Can we win? And meaning not can we win, but can we get it done? Because so much development is happening across Cincinnati. And I just wanted to, from time to time, drop a few things, a little bit of information for those who may not remember. But this is something that's going on all over the country. Where is under the name gentrification. A lot of times we don't know what gentrification, it's a word, we understand it's moving out, and particularly sometimes moving out people of color, coming in, getting the property, and getting the property for a cheaper cost, redeveloping the property, and then, charging higher rates for being a renter or a tenant, or selling it for higher rates. And so one of the things with the New Friendship property, just as a quick recap, New Friendship Baptist Church is located right in the center of what would be a $1 billion development. They're developing all over. It's called Innovation Corridor in the center of Avondale. And so it comes off of the Martin Luther King exit, something that I'm very proud to, have worked with the governor to get us the Martin Luther King exit, the only new highway exit in the country, in the state. And then one of the, newest in an urban area in the country. And so it connects the University of Cincinnati and Hebrew Union College. It connects Children's Hospital and Tri-Health and UC Health, and it connects all of the innovation corridor. So it connects lots of jobs and we'll connect new jobs. And so they designated it as the innovation corridor. In other words, it's going to be a lot of technology and innovation in this area. And so, but it's on the Martin Luther King exit. And without the exit, it couldn't be possible. So long story short, as you know, New Friendship was one of the churches, and there's other churches that have been targeted in other neighborhoods. But as one of the churches been targeted in this neighborhood, saying that, hey, we're going to squeeze you. There's ways to get people out. You can go and buy them out. You can push them out. You can squeeze them out. What do you mean by squeeze? You buy up all the land around them. That's called land locking. That way they can't move left, right, nowhere. They're locked to their land. And that's what they did. They bought up all the property. Then you go and you get a building inspector and say, go in there and try to find anything you can and put some fines on them. So that's a cost that they would have to pay. And then they probably won't be able to pay. And then that way they'll get kicked out. Well, we stopped that and we said, hey, we're not going to have that. Let's talk about redeveloping ourselves. So we want to redevelop and be a part of the prosperity that is happening. And so there were a lot of barriers. There continues to be some barriers. But I want to say that, of course, under our direction, Bishop Michael Mack, of course, our trustees, our deacons, our church has decided to stay. Dr. Reece is chair of our trustees, and certainly I've been a member of that church for 2 decades. So we've come in and we are putting together a development team. We have a concept drawing similar to what, any major thing, whether it's the FC Cincinnati doing a stadium, they all have what you call concept drawings. So we have concept drawings with Elevar Architect, and we are working now in the next phase of moving forward. Now, question, people say, well, how do you do this if you don't have cash? If you don't have cash, how do you do it? Well, when you have your land is an asset. So you're not broke as long as you have your land. So we have land, and in land, you could do a lot of things. You could borrow against it, you could lease it, etc. So this week, I just want to bring an update. There was an announcement, Uptown Development Corporation, which represents the hospitals, the zoo, all of the major anchors in that area. They have a development corporation, and Uptown Development handles their development. So Uptown then gets tax credits to do deals. Tax credit, keyword, whenever you say tax, you're talking about public. So they get public tax credits to do the deal, and they borrow against the tax credits, etc. And so this week they announced that even though they have been very difficult toward New Friendship, and I don't know why they would be difficult toward New Friendship when they gave $11 million to Crossroads to move into the Uptown area and redeveloped the St. George Church. So they gave them $11 million of the tax public credits to move in, but have been so resistant against New Friendship and animate about trying to get them out and not to be supportive. So when they say, wait a minute, we can't just hand out anything. Well, you handed out $11 million for another church. And we're not looking for a handout. We're talking about a development deal. And in a deal, they have a thing called what they call gap financing. Now, people say, what is gap financing? Gap financing is no different than, say there's a house that's $600 and a single mom can only afford to pay the $300. And then you have public assistance. They come in and do what? They pay the other $3. That's called gap. That's no different than gap financing. The difference is we're dealing with bigger dollars. So in other words, if you have a project that's 20 million and you have a gap of, say, 10 million, they come in and say, well, we can fill the gap, the $10 million. And so with the Crossroads project, they brought in $11 million in tax credits to, I guess, help the gap. I don't even know if it was a gap, but I know they gave them 11 million. To move in. So with all that, this week they announced that they have a deal, a private deal. And I just want you to keep your eyes on this because the media came out and said it's a private deal, $150 million. Martin Luther King highway exit on the corner of Reading Road and Martin Luther King, $150 million of private money. And people went to clapping and, some elected officials were there and we really did it. This is a great deal. And we're going to take the deal down to City Hall. Now, this is where I want you to wake up because we always want to break this stuff down. We're going to break development down so people can really understand. If it's private, you don't need to go down to City Hall. For example, when you buy your house is between you and the bank, right? And when you and the bank, they don't say, now that's a private deal. When they say the signing, they don't say we got to go down to City Hall and approve your private deal that you just did. You did a private deal. So when they say these things, you got to stay woke. If you got to go to City Hall, that means there's some public interest in it. What does that mean? That's either I got to give you some tax credits or what they call a TIF, meaning that all the taxes that you're going to generate, they're going to project that you generate. None of that's going to the general fund to help everybody like our taxes do. That tax will go back to their project. Then they said something about some land for $1. Well, we put a bid in for the land that you bought all around New Friendship. We put a bid in to get it back for $1. And you say, oh, that we can't just do that. That's just not possible. So my point is, whenever they say $150 million private deal, and in the deal, they said that the major tenant is going to be University of Cincinnati. Now, the last time I checked, when I was on the finance committee, the University of Cincinnati is a public institution. Public institution means you're funded by public dollars. So you're going to be a leaser, meaning that if you come in and say, I'm going to do 20 years, I'm going to lease this for 20 years. They take 20 years times the rent, and that's the amount. And they take that amount and put toward the deal. So, of course, you can build the deal if I already know I got a tenant for 20 or 50 years. Now, that tenant happens to be the University of Cincinnati, who is publicly funded. So to jump up and say, we private, I don't want you guys to get because you'll get wrapped up and say, well, they can't do nothing with New Friendship. Because, the deals they brought private deals. Hold tight. If it's private, question you ask, why do we got to go down to City Hall? Why do you have to get a vote from City Hall? If it's private, it'll be just like when you go to the bank and get your house. It's between you and the bank at the closing. The mayor is not at your closing. City council ain't got to give you 5 or 9 votes to get your house in any municipality. They're not signing your paperwork. That's a private deal between 2 private entities. Now, when they start saying they got to go and get a vote on something, believe me, there's a public component to it. So I'm saying to you, because I got some people who called me and said, oh, Alicia, they got to do that project because it's private, $150 million, and they clapping and politicians are clapping, but got to go downtown and we got to vote on something. Well, wait a minute. It's got to have some public stuff involved in it if we got to vote on it. So look between those deals. That's my hot sauce moment on development today. And I'm going to get heavily involved in real estate development. People say, what are you going to do, Alicia Reece? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? I'm going to be in real estate development. That's the first thing that I'm going to do. I'm going to be doing communications, which I've always been doing. I do marketing and communication as a consultant, but I also have my radio show that's right here. So I'm going to be doing my radio show and consulting and marketing, but I'm going to be in real estate development. And so you guys stay tuned to that. But every week or every time I get a chance, I won't say it's every week, but when I get a chance, I'm going to drop some knowledge on you. But let's just stay woke. Let's stay woke, people. They jump up 150 million private dollars. Really? So why are you running down to city council? What we voting on? Why do we have to vote on anything if it's private? If it's private, keep it private. No, they need some public financing. They need some public incentives. So when you do all of that, some people call that a handout. I call it a deal. But if we're going to call it a deal, it's a deal whether it's the people you want to do it. It's a deal whether it's new friendship, it's a deal, whether it's a developer, let's call it a deal if it's a deal. But don't make it a deal when it's you and your buddies. And then when African Americans show up, it's a handout. We're not going for that. We got to get the same terminology. If it's a deal, make it a deal. If it's a handout, make it a handout. But we got to have the same terminology. I have nothing against what Crossroads is doing. I think it's great. But if Crossroads can get $11 million and that's called a deal, then New Friendship, when they put their pieces together, that's got to be called a deal. And remember, it's never private if you got to go downtown and get a vote of city council. It's never private if you got to go over to the county and they got to sign off on it. It's never private if the state got to sign off on it or your municipality. It's private like when you buy your house, when the banks say it's your signature and their signature. Now that's a private deal. So that's my hot sauce moment for the day. Have a good weekend and we'll see you next week on Alicia Reece Soul Food.
You're listening to Cincinnati's 24-hour urban gospel connection, Inspiration, 10:50 a.m.